Earlier, I spoke to a Chinese professor and economics expert, Victor Gao, about all of that. Here are his thoughts on the ramifications of the growing trade war between the world's superpowers and his advice for America. Take a look.
What these applications or companies behind them are telling the American people is that while China is the workshop for the world, China is also where all these luxury goods are being produced, up to 50%, if not even higher. For example, for the Rolex watch, which is well recognized throughout the world, I understand, without having done my own verification, about 80% of the Rolex watches are made in China. But then they become Swiss-made and they become luxury goods. They are sold into the United States and many other places. Now, when China sells these luxury goods to the European or American companies, actually the cost is very, very low. So those who work on these products actually do not make a lot of money in China. But when they are sold to the end users, they sell for exorbitant price. Now, I think what the Chinese factories want to tell them is that, well, for all these years, you are being ripped off by whoever who is involved in this value chain. And now, on top of that, the U.S. government under President Trump wants to charge, let's say, 145% tariff or even up to 245% tariff. That will completely destroy the marketability of these products to the American people. So maybe you can approach me. I have equally good products and I can sell you at factory price, for example. And even on top of all these tariffs, it becomes still very much affordable to the American people. I even heard that the Americans are really flying to China on charter planes sometimes just to buy goods in China because they are much cheaper here in China. And when you bring back to the United States, by satisfying all the custom rules, etc., you can still end up being better off than buying all the expensive things in US plus all the tariffs on top of that.
So here's my question, Victor. Here's my question then. There's always been a big question around why China has been able to manufacture at such a low cost. And even when you look through the WTO websites and you look at some of the complaints over the years since China joined the WTO in 2001, there's been concerns about subsidies, which distort trade, by the way. There's been concern about currency manipulation on the renminbi. There's been concern about all of these factors that have given China a competitive edge. Because industrializing a country, no matter where you are in the world, let's not call it America and China, every single government wants that in order to increase its manufacturing base. It creates jobs and it's good for the people.
Let me tell the real truth. The reason why Chinese production is so efficient is based on several things. One is that China produces a lot of power. In terms of industrial use of power, China consumes 6 times more power than the United States does. Now, the second thing is very efficient, brand new, top quality infrastructure. You are talking about highways, railways, airports, seaports of all kinds, so that in China you can move things back and forth from corner to corner, from hinterland to the coastline, etc., with great efficiency. Now, the other thing is that China has accumulated such a cluster, what we call a cluster of all the spare parts, raw materials, etc. So you can really make almost anything in the world if you do the production locally here in China. Now, the other thing, equally important, and many people say, well, China is cheap labor, etc. Let me say, Chinese labor is no longer cheap, but the Chinese labor is highly disciplined. And most of my countrymen are very eager to work.
Let's talk about the current negotiations or perhaps the talks that are on the go. You've got this trade war that is playing out in real time, a huge confrontation between the US and China. Where do you think it is headed? I can see that China's not going to be backing down. President Trump and his administration are really going full force on various products. But you have leverage, and you have leverage on rare earths. So how do you think this is going to play out? What's your prognosis?
Thank you very much. I think this is the moment of truth. I think all of us need to defend free trade. So the real choice is not between US or China. The real choice is between whichever country which wants to defend free trade and whichever country which wants to throw a big wedge into free trade to disrupt or even destroy free trade. Now, in this particular sense, I truly believe the United States under President Trump are throwing a wedge into free trade, and China is becoming the standard bearer of free trade. Now, protecting free trade is not just for China's interest, it is for everyone's interest. Free trade liberates everyone and makes win-win situation for all the participating countries. Now, I heard that Lighthizer wrote a book called No Trade is Free. Allow me to say to him, that means your heart and your soul are not free. That means you are being bothered by demons in your soul. Free trade is the megatrend. All of us need to embrace free trade. So this is the moment of truth. I think China is doing the right thing, protecting free trade, advocating free trade, and fight off whichever country, big or small, which wants to destroy free trade.
Victor, does China need the US consumer? China has a population of 1.4 billion people. There's a growing middle class. Does China need the US consumer?
Let me give a two-part answer very quickly. Of course, China needs the American people, American consumers. For 46 years in a row, China worked so hard. We used the best material. We used the best workforce. We used the best speed, try to beat the deadline, try to send all the goods to the United States. And we make all kinds of things for the US market. But now, if Trump says, no way, all your Chinese export to the United States destroy jobs in the United States, you are raping China, you are really having ulterior motives in China, I think the Chinese government has already made up its mind. Forget about the US market. We will live without the United States for another 5,000 years. So I think China is at this moment of truth again. We are mobilizing all domestic demand, try to accommodate whatever that could not be sold to the US market. We're exploring all the possible overseas market to make up for whatever businesses lost in the US market. So eventually, I think we are faced with a possible situation where trade between China and the United States both ways will grind to a halt. And China, US, economically speaking, will have decoupling. But what will be the consequence? That will not make America stronger or greater. That will make the United States probably more miserable.